and we will make America great again. More products stamped with those beautiful, beautiful words, made in the USA.
U.S. President Donald Trump has a bold, ambitious, and forward-looking economic revival plan to massively increase wages and to bring jobs and production back to America. So how will his decisions affect the seafood industry? In order to find the answers, we have to go to the industry. In this multi-part mini-series, we're going to take you on a road trip, and our first stop is in Alaska.
My name is Alexa Tonkovich, and I'm the Executive Director of the Alaska Seafood Marketing Institute, also known as ASME. ASME is a public-private partnership between the state of Alaska and the Alaska seafood industry with the mission of increasing the economic value of the Alaska seafood resource. ASME has a domestic U.S. marketing program which focuses on retail, food service, and consumer PR. We are also active in 27 countries worldwide, primarily focused on Japan, China, Brazil, and Europe. In addition to that, we conduct exploratory activities, most recently in Southeast Asia and Korea.
President Trump can be quoted numerous times saying that he wants his country to buy America again and to hire American again. By proposing higher tariffs on foods imported into the U.S., he is essentially going to make goods produced outside of America more expensive, forcing more domestic consumption of American-made goods instead. But could this actually play out well for Alaskan seafood?
About 60 to 70% of the value of Alaska seafood comes from exports, and that's remained fairly consistent in recent years. I don't anticipate a time when we ever shift totally away from exports. I don't believe it's advantageous to rely on just the U.S. market or just exports. I think it's important for the seafood industry to diversify their markets.
Seafood is one of the last hunted foods on Earth, and there's a limited supply of it due to factors such as quotas, sustainability, and climate change. Now here's an interesting perspective for you. In 2015, Alaska was responsible for harvesting over 6 billion pounds of seafood. The FDA recommends an 8 to 12 ounce serving of seafood 2 to 3 times per week. Based on the 2016 U.S. population, there would only be enough Alaska seafood for roughly 35 servings per year out of the 156 recommended by the FDA. Although this was a very linear calculation and there is other wild-caught seafood harvested all over the United States, this kind of shows that the country might not even be able to feed itself by putting up trade barriers.
If there are higher tariffs on imported seafood products, that makes imported seafood more expensive. That's certainly an opportunity for Alaska seafood to increase its share of the market in the U.S. If a similar agreement to TPP is not worked out between the U.S. and those markets that would have been included in TPP, then tariffs on Alaska seafood will remain the same, keeping our products slightly more expensive in those overseas markets. It can be challenging to compete when you have higher priced products. It takes a lot of consumer and trade education to tell people why they should buy Alaska seafood even when it's more expensive than competitor products. In terms of aquaculture, finfish farming is illegal in the state of Alaska, and at least to my knowledge, discussions of changing that law aren't being held broadly. I think that would be a bit of an uphill climb. So there are certainly opportunities to increase mariculture, which is not illegal, but finfish farming could be a ways off.
The state of Alaska wants ASME to be federally and industry funded by 2019, and they're projected $0 to $2 million in funding from the state next year and $0 every year after that. It would certainly seem that ASME would like the U.S. administration's support for their program, but do their visions actually collide?
ASME has already reduced our spend plan in the current fiscal year, and we will continue to operate at a reduced budget. The reality of budget cuts is reduced marketing activities. We'll attempt to be as creative and efficient with the funding as possible and attempt to find other partners to collaborate with.
The news agency stated the state of Alaska's economy has been struggling for several years as oil prices have fallen. Could Alaska's economy benefit from more domestic seafood processing? What if they invested in more infrastructure?
Infrastructure investments and things that create jobs in Alaska can certainly bolster the economy. With seafood processing in the U.S. and in Alaska, there are certainly some challenges, such as high labor costs, the cost of energy being quite high, and the logistical complications of shipping food out of Alaska. We're an industry that relies heavily on export markets, so trade agreements that reduce or eliminate tariffs can certainly make our products more price competitive overseas. It's impossible to speculate. Any new administration is going to have an impact on our industry, either positive or negative. We're certainly hopeful for an administration that's supportive of this important Alaska and U.S. industry.
President Trump wants more domestic consumption and more domestic production. More domestic consumption of Alaska seafood would mean less Alaska seafood available for exports, which is not advantageous for international availability of the Alaska seafood brand. More domestic production of Alaska seafood means higher processing costs, which means higher prices for an already premium priced product. The stars are definitely not aligned here, and you can be sure that there will be changes. I think the changes will come in slow, but they will be coming. My speculation is that President Trump will allow for tax breaks for companies to produce products back in America again, specifically cutting into the large piece of pie China currently has. Keep following this mini-series along as we uncover more effects the Trump administration will have throughout the seafood industry.